Now let's have a look what happens at the next possible date, which is the 1st of May. Arnu Limited sold 1,700 ordinary shares, which comes from this investment in Jabulani Limited, for cash, so your contra entry is bank, at the fair value of R1.70 each. Now remember, we have already read that brokerage of 0.5% of the amount that you received when you sell shares has not been taken into account yet. That means that this R1.70 at which they sell the shares will be the fair value, excluding, not taking into account any brokerage. So when you sell shares and you are in the category at fair value, you have to do a fair value adjustment first before you recognize the disposal. The reason for that is if you are in the category at fair value and you sell at fair value, you should not have a profit or loss on sale. So to make sure you don't have a profit or loss or sale, you do a fair value adjustment, get your entire investment to its fair value, and then recognize the disposal. Now, in this case, they only sold 1,700 shares. That is not all the shares we have at this moment. You can choose only to do a fair value adjustment on those shares that are being sold. However, it is easier to do a fair value adjustment on the entire investment and then to recognize the disposal. So you could do a fair value adjustment only on the 1,700, but we would suggest you rather fair value adjust your entire investment in shares before you recognize the disposal. So if we have a look at the T account, on the 1st of May, we would first do a fair value adjustment, and we'll have a look at that calculation in a moment. Then we would recognize the disposal. If we dispose of part of this investment, of some of the shares, we need to take those shares out, de-recognize them. They are no longer part of our investment. They cannot be in your T account anymore. You don't have them anymore. So on the credit side of this T account, you take out the 1,700 shares. Your contra account will be bank because they told us that these shares are sold for cash. At that point, you can again do a balance carried forward and then a balance brought forward, which now are the remaining shares at the fair value because we did a fair value adjustment on date of sale. How do we calculate that fair value adjustment? It's done in calculation number 2. We take the fair value of all the shares on the date of sale, which was R1.70, and then we had the original 4,000. We bought another 2,000. We got 1,500 in terms of a caps issue, and we compared that to the carrying amount. What do we currently have in our T account as the balance? That balance that we currently have needs to move upwards or downwards as a fair value adjustment. In this case, the balance that we had was more than the fair value. So there was a decrease in the fair value. Any decrease is treated as temporary of nature. We just recognize a fair value adjustment. We do not say it's an impairment because impairment is not in the scope for FRK 201. So it's a downwards fair value adjustment. Where does the fair value adjustment go? Well, it credits your investment account because the investment has to go down, the value decreased, and the debit goes through profit or loss because that is the category that you are in.